Good morning and welcome to Valley Views. I'm your host, Glenn Edison. We're certainly glad to have you today. And as always, we want to thank BTC Fiber for sponsoring our program. And we also want to thank our sponsors to our program, Embers Ice Cream of Pikeville, Nickel Roll Antiques of Pikeville, and White Wagon Bed and Breakfast of Pikeville. So if you're in Pikeville, visit those fine folks at those places and find out what you need, maybe what you don't need, but you want it anyway. So go by and visit those fine folks. And today we have with us Erin Lamb of the Isaiah Lamb Fund.
That's right.
And thank you for being with us.
Thank
I appreciate
you for having me.
And first, let's do. I always like to do a little background on people and the situation, so we can find out kind of who you are and stuff, and then we'll get into the rest of it.
Okay. So I'm Erin Lamb, and I'm originally from Connecticut. We just moved to Dunlap about a year ago. I have a 14-year-old son who has some special needs, and I also have quadruplets. So I have four 11-year-olds. Yes,
wow.
Yes. So they were born at 29 weeks. So they were 11 weeks early, spent some time in the hospital. And then at 3 years old, Isaiah, one of the quads, was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. So that was a big change for us, and some new things to deal with that we hadn't dealt with before. New expenses, and sort of brought us into the establishment of the Isaiah Lamb Fund.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about what the Isaiah Lamb Fund does and what it's set up to do.
Sure. So we have two arms. One arm is a scholarship fund, and that is for students in high school who have an IEP, which is an individualized education plan, or a 504 plan, which allows them to access special education services. And then as they graduate and wish to pursue higher education, whether that's college or a transition program or some kind of living program, we give them a scholarship so that they can put that toward those expenses.
Oh, okay.
And then the other arm of the fund is a grant, so we don't expect any money back. It's not a loan, but we give money to families to help offset their out-of-pocket medical expenses, whether that's hospital bills or therapeutic interventions, or durable medical equipment, or modifications to a home or a vehicle, whatever they need in order to help the child access the community and reach their full potential.
Oh, well, that sounds pretty neat. So your outreach is quite a bit.
It is. We try to help where we can, and that we don't, our application process is very simple. We don't require, proof of income or anything like that. We try to make it as easy as we can for people to access the funds.
Well, and excuse me, how long have you said this has been going on?
So in 2017, it actually started as a fundraiser for Isaiah to purchase a vehicle lift for his wheelchair. As he got bigger and heavier, the wheelchair got bigger and heavier. And so we had a golf tournament. That was our first fundraiser. And we were able to raise enough to help us purchase that. So after we realized how generous people were and how willing people were to help us out, we established as a 501c3 nonprofit so that we could then help other families. So that we officially were recognized as a nonprofit in 2019.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
Yes.
Well, then, do you help just families around here, or are you open to other families?
So we're open to anyone who needs help. We're trying to focus on Sequatchie County, just trying to sort of get our name out there right now. We were able to help one family from Whitwell recently, but being that we're new, we're sort of trying to get our name known.
Out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll do that with
Absolutely,
this interview
yes.
today. Well, how has your son been doing?
He's doing really well. He's in 6th grade now. He's homeschooling, and he goes to therapies at Sequatchie County schools. He goes to outpatient therapies. He has lots of doctor's appointments, but he's very healthy. He gets around and is a part of the community and happy to be around other people. So we're fortunate that he's doing as well as he is.
And a lot of people I know with special needs children, they'll see them out and they want to help, but then they don't see the backstory at home where you're doing all the stuff that you have to do and the extra stuff you have to do.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's part of the the more that we can help people, because we understand we've been in the position where we don't want anyone ever to have to choose between buying food and going to physical therapy. They're both needed, but obviously if it comes down to that choice, they're going to choose food. So we want to be able to help pay for those things and to let other people know what we're doing and why, so that they can realize the number of therapy appointments and doctor's appointments and phone calls to insurance to try to get things covered and things like that.
Right. I know there's been many people that I know that have had trouble with insurance on things because insurance is insurance.
Yes, it is.
And but it takes maybe sometimes when they deny it going back over and over, maybe several times
Yes.
before it gets approved.
Yes. Yeah, and that's one of the things that we try to have a quick turnaround, so that when there are things like that or there are exclusions to an insurance policy, we can quickly get what's needed immediately, instead of having to fight through red tape and go months. We ourselves have had fights with insurance companies that have gone on almost a year just to get things covered. We once had Isaiah's wheelchair covered but not the wheels, so we had to go back and appeal that they cover the wheels as well. So it's just things that you normally wouldn't have to deal with, that you then have to figure out what you need to do.
And to all my friends in insurance, I'm not being critical of insurance, but you know how it is.
That's just what it is. Yes.
Well, and I know, like you said, it takes, sometimes it's just little things. I know one time I was scheduled for MRI, and then the very day I went, they said, "Oh, you haven't been approved."
Right.
I said, I mean,
Dear, yes.
So we got that changed real quick.
Oh, good.
I had that day, but I had to jump through some hoops that day.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, and I mean, a lot of us as families with special needs, especially when you have more than one person, you sometimes have to choose which fights you're willing to fight, and we don't want anyone to have to do that, whether it's, am I going to fight to get therapy covered by insurance, or am I going to just forget it and not get the service? And we don't want them to have to choose that.
Right, and a lot of people you talked about the wheelchair. A lot of people don't realize in the special needs wheelchairs, those are very expensive.
They are.
They're not just like your regular wheelchair.
Exactly. I mean, Isaiah's alone is with he has wheels that he has a joystick to drive the wheels, and that came separate from the wheelchair, but all in it's about $30,000.
Yeah.
And he's going to outgrow that in about a year. So it's not like you buy it once. It's every few years kids are growing out of their equipment.
Well, I have a friend who was paralyzed from his chest down, and he has a special, it's a wheelchair, but it also extends up where he can stand.
Yes.
And that was very expensive.
Right. It really is, and lots of times different insurance policies will have exclusions for different things. Some might cover an automatic drive, and some won't, and just fighting through that and getting the right wording in the doctor's prescriptions and all that kind of thing. It can be very expensive.
Right, it certainly can. And I'm sure, I know being a former teacher that here in the system that there's plenty of special needs children here, and a lot of them may not have a physical disability.
Right.
But they have other disabilities that cause them to have a need.
Exactly, yeah. And I think Sequatchie County Schools does a really great job of even some of my kids that are homeschooled, providing the services. So they'll go to the school for speech and occupational and physical therapy, but there's a distinction between school-based therapies, what do the kids need for their education, and then life-based therapies. And so a lot of kids who receive services in the school also need services outside of the school, which then has to go through insurance and may or may not be covered.
Right, because as you mentioned, there's a difference between teaching them how to get involved in school, because that's their education.
Right.
But the life skills is another thing.
Exactly, yes. Yeah, and I think that that's something that takes a lot of time. Life skills, as they grow too, you have to kind of change the approach, and different therapies work for different things, and so finding the right fit is very important.
Right, and also it depends a lot on their mental capabilities.
Right.
Because some children are not mentally ill, but they're just physically ill, so they can figure out some things. You can show them, and
Exactly,
they can do it
yes.
on their own, while others need help both ways.
That's right, yeah. And so there are a lot of therapies too that, especially for things like autism, they're very intensive. So, you'll have therapists in the house 5 to 6 days a week. And so number one, is expensive, but it also sort of invades your home and is a big adjustment for the whole family.
Right. Because your other children may want to play.
Exactly. They don't want to do therapy.
Yeah. And well, that's really a neat program that you have going on, and it's good that you have had the opportunity to do this,
yes,
so that others can achieve from it. And I know a lot of times people take their struggles, like in your case, you could have just laid down and said, "Oh,"
right,
know, and say, "Woe is me."
Right.
And some people do,
mm-hmm.
but you didn't. You took it on and took a challenge, and you went further to help not only your son but others.
Yeah, and I mean, it's, there's a really great joy in being able to take that off someone's plate, to be able to say to them, you know what, we'll pay for you to stay, in hospital housing for a few weeks while your child is in the hospital, or we'll pay for your parking while your child is in the hospital, or, things that you might not think, you don't think of. You think, my child is sick, I need to get them help, but there's all these other expenses that go with it.
Well, just like if they're in the hospital, there's you have to eat meals.
Right.
You have to drive to the hospital and back.
Mm-hmm.
You have to stay somewhere.
Right.
A lot of times, if it's a long period, so there's costs that run, and even snacks. If you get a Coke or a cup of coffee or something,
it all
crackers.
adds up. Yes.
So all that adds up, and people don't realize just how much that takes.
Right, and lots of times too. If you have a child in the hospital, you may have to take time off work, and then you may or may not have income coming in, and so you have these other expenses too that you didn't anticipate and may not have savings for.
Right, and your bills still come in.
Exactly, they don't stop.
whether you're at the hospital or not.
Right.
So, well, that's interesting. Now, have you seen this program make an impact locally?
We have. It's been slow. COVID definitely slowed us down with our fundraising.
Right.
So we're trying to sort of get our name out there now. And the other challenge that we run into is that people don't always want to ask for help, and so that has definitely been a challenge, especially being new to the area. We don't necessarily know a lot of people that we can reach out to, to say, oh, someone who needs help, or we heard of this person who needs help. We were able to help a family who had a child in the hospital in Nashville. So we were able to help them with their expenses and a place to stay for a few weeks. So that's what we've been able to do locally, but we definitely want to be able to grow and establish ourselves here and help as many people as we can.
Well, have you been a part of any of the local activities like recently, like the Oktoberfest or stuff like that?
Yeah, we try to get out in the community as much as we can, pass out our information and just talk to as many people as we can. The biggest way that we reach people is just by having Isaiah out in the community. He's very outgoing and likes to talk to people, and that sort of leads into the discussion of the Isaiah Lamb Fund.
Well, that's neat. And does he get out to able to see any of the ball games or anything in schools? He
does, yeah. His brother actually played football for the middle school. His sisters are playing soccer now, so we're able to get out and meet some people, and so it's been really. I mean, this is such a great welcoming community, and very inclusive. So people come over and talk to him, and he gets to meet some people even though he's not in school. Yeah,
well, that's the way this community is. They just reach out to anybody.
Yes, that's what we found. It's everybody knows everybody, and it's been so great. Like the way that we've been welcomed as a family, even with special needs, but just not knowing before people knew that we had Isaiah and his brother, just coming and saying hello and introducing themselves, and it's just been really welcoming.
Well, that's really neat. Well, how can people get in touch with you if they need to?
Sure. Facebook is probably the best way. It's just the Isaiah Lamb Fund Incorporated. We also have a website, which is the isaiahlambfund.wixsite.com. I'd like to be able to upgrade the website eventually, but right now we're sort of, just to get the information on there. But Facebook is probably the best way, and the messages go directly to me, so I'm happy to reply quickly and see what we can do to help people.
Well, good. That's great. And have you done any local fundraisers for the program?
So we did an auction, an online auction in July. Right now we're running, it's through our website. We have the link in on Facebook too. It's you can order holiday decor, and it ships just after Thanksgiving from the Pacific Northwest. So we'd like to, we're sort of trying to figure out what fundraiser works best. But all donations are tax deductible, and so we're getting there, but we're still sort of learning, the market and what we need to do.
Well, that's really neat to know that something like this is around.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
Where you can help, because I'm sure that you've had smiles and tears for a
Absolutely,
lot of cases.
Absolutely, yes. And so many parents are just speechless when you hand them a check and say, this will help pay for whatever therapy you need or a place to stay or just to take that burden off. So because they have enough to deal with, with their child.
Well, I have a nephew that his daughter, she had what she needed when she was younger. She's about 4 now, I believe, 3 or 4. Anyway, when she was diagnosed, well, it's left me now, but anyway, the cost to treat it was going to be like $1 million,
Yes.
and it had to be approved, and it was denied first, and then they had to go back and forth.
Right.
And so it was expensive for them, but they finally got that approved.
Oh, good.
But they've had a lot of things they've had to go through.
Right, yeah, and it's very stressful. It really takes a toll on the entire family to have to deal with that and just to take the time to call insurance, every day usually to make sure they've gotten the appeal and are they moving forward, because they're sometimes just as happy to see if you decide to call back and push the issue.
Right. And so programs like yours would greatly help a lot of people.
Right, and that's our hope, is to get the help, but get it quickly, because usually if you have a medical expense you need durable medical equipment, you need it tomorrow. You don't need it in a year.
right, because you can't do without this
Exactly.
And that's what I think people need to I think most people do realize. You need it.
Right.
You can't really wait. It's just like if you need a place to live, you need it now.
Exactly.
You can't wait a year and say, well, I'll just stay in the tent.
Right, and that's right, and that's one of the things too, is that we want kids with disabilities in the community, and the community's happy to have them. But if you don't have a vehicle, or you don't have a wheelchair, or you don't have the equipment you need, it's not possible to do. So the quicker we can do it, the better off everyone is.
Well, and you mentioned vehicles. A lot of times people need a different vehicle, like in your case with a wheelchair lift and stuff like that you have to have.
Right.
And those are not cheap.
They are not. No. And that's how this all started, was with the vehicle, and it sort of snowballed into, well, there's this we could support people with, or there are these other bills that we could help with. But definitely that was our first eye-opening experience, was like, we can't leave the house if we don't have the right vehicle.
yeah. I mean, you'd have to stay at home or get some service to come and pick you up.
Right.
And so that's another cost as well.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, it's certainly great to have you today, and I appreciate it, because I hope this gets out to people. Hopefully we'll spread the word for you.
Absolutely, that would be great.
And get people out there and let them to know you're here and that you're doing many great things you're doing.
Yes, thank you. We're happy to help as many people as we can.
And also, have you given flyers at a school?
Yes, okay. We've emailed and we do have paper flyers we're hoping to get soon. So we're hoping to get the word out, and just being part of the community, I think, has helped a lot, and just having other Isaiah siblings in the school, and word of mouth has definitely spread the word a little bit. So we're getting there.
Right, and I've noticed when I taught school that not everybody that has a special needs child has nowhere near the means to take care of them.
Exactly, and it's really a challenge, and even with good insurance, it doesn't cover everything. You might have a copay or a deductible, or an exclusion in your policy that you can't get a certain piece of equipment, and so we're happy to offset those out-of-pocket expenses.
Well, that's great. I appreciate the service you're doing. It sounds like a great network that you have set up.
Thank you. We're very happy to help.
And hopefully we'll get this message out to everybody.
That's great. Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
And again, folks, you can see our program on BTC Fiber's YouTube page, as well as BTC Fiber's Cable Channel 18. And again, thanks to our sponsors, Ember's Ice Cream of Pikeville, Nickel Row Antiques of Pikeville, and White Wagon Bed and Breakfast of Pikeville. So until next time, have a great day. Hey everybody, this is Glenn Edison from Valley Views. We appreciate you watching our shows, and we would like for you to like, share, and follow us on Facebook, as well as like and subscribe to our YouTube page.